Why do car windows have strange black dotted patterns in the corner? You might not have noticed them, but you will now. And they're there to disguise the huge black stripe holding all of the windows' glue. And have you ever heard of Xenoglossy? It's a strange phenomenon where somebody can speak a second language they never knew they could. But is it real? I'm Mike with List 25, and from bone-eating worms to plants that don't touch the ground at all, here are 25 things, well, you didn't know. 25. Why airplanes use weird headphone plugs. There's nothing as comfortable as using your own headphones. So why did airplane companies insist on handing out their cheap plastic ones for that strange two-pronged socket? Well, there are actually a couple of reasons. Firstly, it was designed this way over half a century ago when the very first airplane entertainment system was built. These were called pneumatic headsets with two inputs for each side of the ear and were used for early audio players like the Walkman. Some of you might be too young to remember them. Secondly, it helps airlines reduce costs by discouraging people from stealing them. Most of our devices like phones or laptops use a single 3.5mm headphone jack. So if the plug doesn't fit, then why would you take them? Although nowadays, they just pretty much use your own Bluetooth headphones. 24. Old newspapers turn yellow. Who wants yesterday's paper? If you wait long enough, that paper won't just be old news, it'll also turn yellow. That's because of what happens when they interact with oxygen. Inside the paper are compounds called cellulose and lignin. Both of these appear white at first, but when they're oxidized, meaning exposed to oxygen, tiny molecules are broken down, absorb more light, and because of that, appear to have a darker color. This one's not doing it yet. This one's only from, where is it? February 7th, 2016, so this is not that old of a paper. I thought I still had the first time the Bucks won the Super Bowl, so I was looking for that one, but I couldn't find it, so this will have to do. This newspaper company doesn't exist anymore. Tampa Tribune is now defunct. That was my newspaper growing up, Tampa Tribune. Shout out to Tampa locals. 23. Passports only come in 4 colors. Do you know what color your passport is? Well, it's certainly either green, red, blue, or black. But why? If you pick up a stranger's passport, chances are it'll feel familiar. There are regulations for passports that almost every customs officer in the world can read, scan, and make sense of them. While there aren't technically rules for which colors can be used, every country still opted for variants of either red, green, blue, or black. That's because these colors are considered more respectable, serious, and official. Can you imagine handing over a bright yellow passport at the border? They'd probably be a lot less likely to let you in. 22. Why we say hello when answering the phone. It's one of the most universally recognized words in the world. Hello. The word first appeared in the dictionary in 1827, but wasn't used in the way it is today until famous inventor Thomas Edison suggested it as a way of signaling the beginning of a call. Alexander Graham Bell, who created the telephone, hated this idea. He instead wanted people to answer the phone with, "Ahoy!" Unfortunately for Bell, Edison's idea proved to be much more popular. Soon, it expanded from phone calls to everyday conversations. Hello. Ahoy. Ahoy hoy. Which do you wish? Do you wish we said ahoy instead? Let me know in the comments. 21. Car windows have little black dots. Next time you're in a bus, take a close look at the window and you might notice a pattern. No, not like the Matrix. I mean an actual pattern of small black dots right on the edge of the glass. They're most likely on your car windows too. These have a technical name, Fritz, and they connect to a striped rim of adhesive that keeps the window stable and fixed. So the dots create a pattern that makes a big blob of glue a little less noticeable. 20. Glabella. Between your eyebrows and just above your nose. It derives from a Latin word that literally means smooth because it's often the flattest, least noticeable part of your face. Over time though, this part of the face can wrinkle based on what kind of expressions you make. In fact, it's this part of the face that controls your facial movements. Now you know what the glabella is, but what's that thing hanging at the back of your throat? Well, find out at number 16. 19. Pulchritudinous. Looking for a tongue-in-cheek way of telling someone they're attractive? Well, try the word pulchritudinous. Just like glabella, this word dates far back to Latin, meaning full of beauty. But it's been used a lot less in the last few centuries because it doesn't sound like a word that has a positive meaning. Plus, it's so long and complicated that you're sure to receive confused looks in return. But you know what? You are all pulchritudinous to me. 18. Oobleck, a non-Newtonian fluid. What's a non-Newtonian fluid? Well, it's something that only acts like a fluid some of the time. They appear to be normal liquids when poured, but when force is applied to them, these fluids become solid. One of these that is a favorite of science teachers is called Oobleck. It can be made easily with just water and cornstarch. 17. Cronuts. What do you get when you mix a croissant and a donut? Well, that's what French chef Dominique Ansel wanted to find out in 2013. The result? A cronut that took the world by storm. When he debuted the product in New York, people lined up for hours each day just to get their hands on one. And that was enough for Ansel to trademark the pastry as a croissant donut hybrid, made with dough similar to a croissant but deep fried and covered with confectionery to make it more like a donut. 16. Uvula. This might sound like a dirty word, but don't worry, it's not. The uvula is the name of the thing that hangs at the back of your throat. If you open your mouth wide enough, you'll see it. But what's its purpose? Well, this tiny piece of tissue keeps your throat from getting too dry, stops food from getting where it shouldn't, and also is used for speaking in some languages. 15. Pando. What comes to mind if you think of the largest organism ever? Maybe a dinosaur or some kind of bacteria. The answer lies in the Fish Lake National Forest of Utah, which is called Pando, and it's the world's largest tree. It's a quaking aspen type of tree, and on the surface it looks like thousands of individual trees. But all of these, which cover 106 acres of landmass, are actually stems of one genetically identical tree. In fact, the name Pando even comes from Latin, I spread, and it's definitely spreading. If the tree roots were stretched out, they would make it about halfway around the world. 14. Fulgurite. Lightning doesn't just appear high above us up in the skies. It can also be seen down below, in the ground. When lightning hits the right piece of damp sand, it transforms into a kind of silica glass, fossilizing it, leaving it preserved for hundreds of millions of years. It's earned the name lightning glass, and if you're looking for a piece, you're best heading for the mountains, beaches, and deserts. Plus, you'll have to be very lucky. What's much more abundant are tiny pellets called Nurdles, which are causing an environmental catastrophe, but that's coming up later. 13. Osedax worms. Don't mess with anything referred to as bone-eating worms. That's the informal name for the Osedax, a worm found in the water near the California coast. This worm doesn't even have a mouth, but its process of digestion is even more terrifying. It produces a kind of acid that's spilled onto its food, strong enough to dissolve bone. One of their main forms of food is whale skeletons. They're kind of like the cleanup crew of the ocean. 12. Dragon's Breath Cave. Namibia evokes images of deserts and dry land. The South African country runs along the Atlantic Ocean, but it has a water wonder of its own inside its borders. Plunging over 300 feet underground, Dragon's Breath Cave holds the largest subglacial lake in the world. Since first being explored in 1986, divers are still surveying the area to this day and still haven't reached the bottom of the lake yet. 11. Clavos. If you're looking for a way to make an old door more decorative, try Clavos. These are nails that you hammer into wood, but they're often made with intricate designs, patterns, and interesting shapes, helping to give an added flair to the door. They're closely linked with a Mexican and Southern style of architecture, as well as appearing a lot in the Wild West designs. 10. Trochlear. Running from your head down through your neck and torso are 12 cranial nerves. While all important and with different functions, number 4 has a very specific task. It's called the trochlear nerve, and gives you the power to move and rotate your eye around it. It acts like a pulley system, controlling what's called the superior oblique muscle, and allows you to focus your eye down or side to side. 9. Nurdle. It might sound like a funny word, but nurdles have a serious role in the world. They're tiny little plastic pellets, just 5 millimeters in size, that are used to form bigger plastic products. Trillions of these nurdles are created each year for the millions of plastic products the world uses. Apart from the huge amount of oil that goes into production, nurdles also end up in the ocean, and a lot of them. Enough to weigh about 200,000 metric tons. For context, that's more than 4 times the weight of the world's largest oil rig. Nurdles take up to 1,000 years to degrade. 8. Chalaza. Want to know how fresh an egg is? Well, it all depends on how much chalaza there is. That refers to the parts of an egg that keep the yolk in position, connecting the membrane of the eggshell to the yolk. They look like a lighter color than the yolk and have a stringy consistency. If they're bigger and more visible, it means the egg is fresh. Now don't miss our top 5, from a condition that makes a person spontaneously learn a second language to a revolutionary ice-making machine. 7. Lagniappe. Have you ever bought something and the salesman decided to throw something in for free? Apart from being a nice business gesture, this practice goes back so long that there's a specific word for it. Lagniappe. Spanish settlers picked up the word from indigenous peoples in South America. It refers to a small gift that's given after the purchase of something. In the US, this custom is still practiced in some parts, like Louisiana, normally by vegetable vendors. 6. Turophile. Are you obsessed with cheese? Well, you just might be what's called a turophile. The term traces back to the early 20th century and is made up of the two Greek words tauros for cheese and philos for beloved. If you can't stop thinking about cheese, it might be because of its addictive properties that attach to dopamine receptors in the brain, and the fact that cheese is the best. What's your favorite type of cheese? Let us know in the comments below. Why is it Havarti? Because it's amazing. 5. Umbra. You probably didn't know that there were different names for each part of a shadow, but it's true. For instance, the umbra refers to the darkest parts of the shadow. On either side of that are the lighter parts that are called the penumbra. It might sound nitpicky and unnecessary, but these concepts are very useful in sciences like astronomy and physics. 4. Xenoglossy. Although the exact existence of this condition hasn't been verified, xenoglossy is a fascinating concept. It describes someone who is suddenly able to speak a different language that they're not conscious of. One article claims that an Indian woman developed a secondary personality and began showing the ability to speak Bengali, a language that's not her mother tongue and she had no exposure to. According to the paper, this could be evidence of reincarnation. Or maybe she was just secretly using Duolingo. What do you think? 3. Epiphyte. Did you know that not all plants come out of the ground? Epiphytes are the name of completely airborne plants. Instead of growing from the soil, they use existing trees and plants as a base. Their main source of water is through the air, and they have developed specialized leaves to take in as much as possible. Kinda sounds like something from Pandora from Avatar, if I'm being honest. 2. Zamboni. A Zamboni is a machine that is essential for ice skating rinks. It's designed specifically to keep the ice surface perfectly smooth. Instead of having a handful of workers raking the ice every time the ice needs to be resurfaced, a man named Frank Zamboni created the machine to do the job. It works by first cutting a layer of ice off the top, then flushing water to clean the surface, before finishing the process by laying down a layer of hot water that freezes and makes the surface as smooth as new. 1. Agnail, or hangnails. Take a look at your nails. On the edge of them, where the nail meets the skin, are there little white pieces, like they've been rubbed too much? There's a word for this, and it's agnail, or hangnails. That name is a little confusing because they don't really hang over your nails. They're on the side of the hand instead. It's a sign of dry skin or inflammation. To treat it, you can use special hand products or even just soak it in warm, salty water. So, what are some more examples of things that you didn't know, or I guess things you want to know that maybe I can look up for you real quick and let us know in the comments and I can answer you. Also, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, check out our social medias, including my personal ones, links in that description below. Now, what about those persisting myths that you never question? From dolphins being our friends, the real origin of St. Patrick, spoiler, he's actually not Irish, click here to check out 25 things everybody knows that are false. Just click it. I know you want to click it. It's not false that you want to click it, and we can learn more stuff. You like learning. You're watching this video. Of course you love learning, or else you wouldn't be here. So click it. I'll meet you over there. Let's go.